Okay, it is pretty hot out right now. We're having a heat wave here in New York and it's summer. So I didn't really feel like cooking anything this morning. So I got breakfast for you that is no cook. You can prepare this the night before, keep it in the fridge, make a big stock of it. Super easy. And it's really just focused on getting as much nutrition as you can in a fun, healthy way. So it's chia pudding, but with a fun little twist that turns it almost more into like a dessert. It feels kind of like a cheat code for breakfast because you're eating it and you're like, this feels like dessert. I don't know. It sounded better in my head. But so these are 3 ways that are all a variation based off the chia pudding recipe in my cookbook. You have a more traditional classic chia pudding. You get some fruits in there, some nuts, seeds. You just kind of load it up with everything and you have a pretty simple, easy seasonal breakfast that's perfect for hot weather. And then the 2 alternatives to that are a matcha blueberry, which has a little bit more of a fruity, refreshing, but also kind of lighter flavor. And of course, for all you coffee addicts out there, there's a mocha, chocolate, hazelnut, tiramisu version as well. I hope that sounds good. I couldn't really decide what to call it. So to start it off, you're gonna need some kind of milk to make your chia pudding. I prefer to make my own milks. If you wanna use some store-bought version, you can. I just suggest flipping it over and just taking a look at the ingredients, making sure that the only ingredients are water, maybe some salt, and whatever like nut or coconut or whatever kind of milk you're using. A lot of them have a lot of fillers, gums, just things you don't need. So I always keep a big bag of almonds around. I get it pretty cheap from Costco. It's like a 3-pounder. And that way I can use it to make almond milk whenever I want, or just eat almonds. So you wanna soak the almonds overnight if possible. This is gonna help soften them up and it's gonna also help remove some of the tannins and whatever little phytonutrients and other things like that that might be in there. Not a super big deal, just something I like to try to do whenever I do make any milks. So you can see it's a little cloudy. That's just some of the, there's always like dust and whatever little particles. And again, the tannins are causing that. So I like to keep rinsing that out until the water comes out clear. From there, all you need is a big jug of water and a good blender. If it's not one of the high-powered blenders, it might not do a very good job, but you can still make it regardless. I used about this much water right here. And in case you didn't notice, I don't really like to measure. So you let this blend for maybe about 30 seconds. And from there, you're gonna get out some kind of strainer. I like to use, there's literally nut bags. You can use cheesecloth, coffee bags, anything that might filter it out. Normal sieve might be a little bit too big, so it might not work too well, but you could try it. So once you strain it out, so now you have your milk that should last in the fridge about a week or so before it might start to taste a little funky. But we're gonna use most of that for this recipe anyway. You can keep the almond meal if you want to dry it out, use it for almond flour, or if you wanna just sprinkle it on top of anything you eat, you get a little bit more fibers and nutrients. So the main event, the chia pudding. I like to use a ratio of about 1 to 4. So that's like a 1/4 cup to a cup of chia to your liquid. So I'm gonna eye that. It doesn't have to be exact. The beautiful thing with this is you can keep adding a little bit more chia or a little bit more liquid if you need. The most important thing here though is give it a mix, or normally when I'm doing this on my own, I just put it into a jar and I shake it, super easy. But for you guys, I'm trying to do a whole little video. So I'm gonna keep this on the side and I'm gonna give it a mix about every minute or so until it stops clumping. You'll notice very quickly if it goes longer than about 2 minutes on its own, you're gonna have a nice congealed chunk that's not very pleasant to deal with. So keep it somewhere that you can keep an eye on. I normally like to load this up with vanilla, cinnamon, maybe even some other seeds and nuts, but I wanna keep this as a base for these 3 different recipes. Feel free to do it how you want. So while that's congealing or whatever it is the chia is doing to the liquid, absorbing it, I guess, let's prepare some of the toppings. I'm gonna go with mangoes. It's June, so this is perfect time for mangoes. I love them. You probably love them unless you're allergic or something. So nothing fancy here. If you slice them the right way, you can get these nice little cubes. And then I also don't like to waste any of the mango. So I'll show you what I do to make sure that middle part that has the seed or the pith or the pit, how to make sure you don't waste any of that. And the thing I really like with mangoes in this is they're already super sweet on their own and they have a bit of a floral flavor to it. So even if you don't add anything else to your chia pudding, this combination right here doesn't feel like anything's missing. But go with whatever's seasonal. If it's fall, throw some apples or a pear in there. You can try like a citrusy one. And yeah, like I said, we don't waste mangoes here. Not in this house. It's hot. I'm gonna leave that in the fridge while we prepare the rest of the ingredients. So for the matcha, we're using blueberries. You can use fresh. I always keep a bag of frozen blueberries in my freezer, just that way I can easily throw them into whatever I want. But I wanted to add a little bit more depth to this. You don't have to do this. If you cook down your blueberries a little bit, I also blended mine. You release a lot of the moisture, so that actually condenses the sweetness of it. I think it also brings out a little bit more of the blueberry flavor. So if you do have a little extra time or you're gonna make a large batch, I think it's worth doing some of it like this, or you can just use fresh blueberries if you want. Now, I do have to say there is something that's very good about matcha and berries. Strawberries, blueberries, raspberries. Maybe it's just the way our tongue is and the taste buds are. The flavors don't compete. They just kind of balance each other out. Like the matcha has that bittery, earthy, grassy matcha-iness. I don't know how to properly describe it. But then the berries just bring that subtle sweetness and that like fruity aroma, but they don't compete. Like a lot of times, you know, you mix flavors and you're like, oh, I can only taste the banana, or I no longer taste the banana. I feel like with this, you actually always taste both, which is kind of cool. And I whisked my matcha just so it is well incorporated. If you're feeling lazy, you can just throw this into your chia mix before you start shaking it up, and it should disperse pretty nicely. But again, I'm doing a large batch with multiple recipes, and that way each chia seed absorbs that matcha goodness. But I'm doing a larger batch for my recipes, so yours is going to taste better than mine. If you're cooking with matcha, I've noticed you don't really taste it unless you overload the matcha. So just something to keep in mind: if you make this and you're like, it doesn't taste like anything, you should try maybe 1.5 or 2xing the amount of matcha you use. So don't use any fancy matcha because you're gonna blow through it very quickly. So you give it a good mix, throw it in the fridge, let that chill, or that's what I'm doing because we're on to the next one, coffee. Get yourself espresso, cold brew. I think an espresso is gonna do better here just because it's more concentrated. You're gonna get a lot more coffee flavor in there for less liquid. But for this one, we are adding the coffee. I have some cold brew along with some of our almond milk and the chia seeds. And again, like I said before, 1:4 ratio. If there's not enough after a few minutes, add a little more chia seeds in there. If there's too much, add a little more liquid. Mix it up. And so I was trying to think what would make this coffee more interesting, and tiramisu comes to mind, hazelnuts like Nutella. So we're gonna do a cashew salted chocolate cream to layer in there with the coffee. So the ingredients are right here. You got your cashews for the base, some cocoa powder, salt, and I'm sweetening it with dates. I soaked the cashews and the dates ahead of time just to help soften them up so they blend a lot smoother. You're gonna need a food processor for this. You can do it in the blender. It's just gonna be a pain to scoop it out of there. If you're dairy free, or even if you're not, like cashew cream is amazing. You can flavor it savory, sweet, almost with anything. And I'm just amazed at the amount of practical uses there are for it between sauces and desserts and just like cheesy type things. So cashews, I definitely keep a big bag of those in my fridge at all times. So for this, you're gonna have to play with it and keep adding a little bit more of your nut milk a little bit at a time until you get a consistency you want. You can go for more of a frosting, or you can make this a little bit more liquidy sauce-like if you wanna just kind of mix it in there. I want it to have a slightly thicker texture. So you keep scraping down the sides, and when it's done, you'll know it's done. If it's not getting smooth, let it keep going, or it's possible your food processor might not be that strong, but mine's pretty cheap, so you probably just have to be a little more patient. So I think that's about everything. Now, why don't we start plating this for you? So we'll start with the first one. I'm just gonna layer in the chia pudding, mangoes, and a little bit of the blueberry. Again, this one, you can just keep adding stuff until you run out of things in your kitchen. I normally throw in flax seeds. I've got some pumpkin seed here. You can throw in sunflower seeds, walnuts, really just anything. Like I feel like the great thing about this is you're just getting so much nutrition in a couple scoops of what feels like it should be a dessert, you know? And you're not even really getting much sugar for the amount of fiber that's in here, plus the healthy fats. You're getting some protein. If you really want, you can throw a little protein powder in there or some collagen peptides. And look at that, it's beautiful. It's so bright, colorful. Okay, matcha time. So the matcha, again, we're layering it, the chia pudding. I want a nice thick layer of that blueberry reduction. And then top it off with some more chia pudding and then some fresh blueberries. Mine are frozen. And yeah, let me get you a quick scoop of this one too. Hold on, I feel like feel like I could go deeper there. Pause. Yeah, there we go. I don't know. If you like matcha and you haven't had it with berries, trust me, you want some of this. And now for the coffee, same thing. Layer it however you want. I crushed some hazelnuts to add a little crunch and give it a little bit more of that Nutella vibe. You could have also mixed in the hazelnuts with this salted chocolate cashew butter. Don't let me tell you how to enjoy your life. We're gonna layer this. Please forgive me, I'm not a food stylist. I'm just kind of going with what I imagine should look good in my head before I do it. So we got a layer of the chocolate. I wanna throw on a nice layer for that hazelnut crunch. Top it again with the rest of that chia pudding. We'll put a little glob on top. Oh, that's like, I think that's the second time I've ever used the word glob in my life. And the first time was also like, whoa, I've never used that word before. It's a weird word. But don't forget to throw on some of the hazelnuts. And of course, you gotta take a nice big chunk of this whole thing. I saved this one for last because this chocolatey cashew, Nutella, hazelnut, salted cream is pretty decadent. It definitely is on more of that desserty vibe, but the sweetness is really just coming from like a handful of dates. So I don't think you have to worry as much as if you were to be having something that was just pure sugar. This one is just, it's dessert, it's ice cream. So there you have it. 3 different ways to make a delicious breakfast without having to turn on your stove. It's summer, you can stay cool. You can make this ahead of time, keep it in the fridge. You can just take it with you to work. You can just enjoy it on your porch. Or if you like to just go for a morning walk while you eat your chia pudding, I'm not gonna judge you. I hope it's a nice walk. Real quick, if you want the full recipe written out, the exact measurements and step-by-step directions, you can get that on my website, aboutthismuch.com. But I also feel like most of these, you don't need a full recipe. You just kind of eye it and you go along with it. And if you don't like it, you switch it up a little bit for next time.